Next is to conjoin with the practice of meditative concentration. For these 2 hours session, I will place my mind, or I will set my mind on the main topic, and I will not get distracted by conceptual thoughts or to other issues such as family matters or work issues. Next is to conjoin with the practice of wisdom. So for these 2 hours of discussions, listening, contemplating, and meditating on Dharma. So whatever Dharma words it is, and whatever Dharma word it is, I will try my best to understand the meaning of those words. Set motivation. For the sake of all sentient beings, may I become Buddha. For this purpose, I'm going to receive the commentary on holy teachings and practice accordingly in order to benefit sentient beings.
Oh, yeah, thank you. But as you come to Shiva Nashi, also, Jesus Paji to be nearly the children, some of the son, dancer, the dancer, Jella, that way needs to be Zilla Toberina, a dear intelligent route to each other. Some of them are intelligent route to each other, the Paji to be nearly when it turns into a condition, so be Kanda. Ni chusi ni ringala zinda soy kala chusi ni ringala so dus kato jini chusi ni la shawiyore kidang waso noji me shigo re kewa tsira thoma man tanda ba sabi geso thoma la tu sama da yoro wa ta tanda kato la pe phashi tuga bi nani jisimbe kada bi shawaji tu tuwa ni sang ko condition phashi tu nani shawa simba dindo to ina de dize gense chembo jido sene tu sene udruwa Jurumbo Jipe, yeah, Pashi to Nani Sisi, Tachi, Detuna the Shria already, not physically over. Pashi, Jurumbo de Martin, the Chusini Ringala, that Gishawa, the son was a condition as Jesus Pashi to Nani, Simba and go to Ina, at the pure of change.
Yeah, so just now we think about, we conjoin this session with the practice of 6 perfections, right? And we think about each of the perfections that I'm going to do something in relation to the practice. So we have to make sure during these 2 hours of sessions, 2 hours of sessions, then we try to practice accordingly. Try to practice according to what we committed just now or determined just now. So if we're able to do according to what we have just committed, then we will be able to conjoin this session with the practice of 6 perfections. So this class is only 2 hours. So if we have to conjoin the sessions, other sessions with the practice of 6 perfections for more than 2 hours, then sometimes it would be difficult. So however, for these 2 hours of attending class, so if we able to conjoin it with the practice of 6 perfections, then that would be very good.
이 전부 시라지 가서 나지 예 수준이 좀 많이나 수준이 내가 다시 두고 영향 차야지 짐바 좀 많이나 짐바 공비 엄마 되게 예자데 다시 두고 관련이 있는 거지 다 뭔가는 아주 문치에 다 간다 아주 집이 전부 그냥 좀 여도 못해서 연이 제대로 주소 다시 두고 그래 와 주소 다시 두고 다시 주소 다시 두고 되시다 되는 것이 있어야 돼 간다 제대로 와 제대로 좀 맞는 거서 메시지 내가 기초를 정도와 다 다시 두고 여도 정도 그래서 당가서 그 간디 교조 로조 간디지 제바이나 상파 주소 다시 두고 연이 봐 생도 가지 엔도야기 인도 투야기 나라로 이노 베디 상모들과 유와 이게 개체 모시라고
Yeah. Yeah, so when we're going through today's discussions, then it's very important to conjoin these sessions with the practice of 6 perfections. And these 6 perfections, we are going to discuss it in detail in Namrim. So in the great scope, then we are going to talk about 6 perfections. So when we talk about these 6 perfections, for example, the practice of generosity, so is when we are practicing generosity, it is very important to conjoin it with 6 perfections. And when we practice morality, and it's also important to conjoin the practice of generosity with 6 perfections as well. So 6 perfections, gathering the disciple, gathering 4 ways of gathering disciples. So they are the main practice in great scope. And other than that is the generation stage and completion stage as well. So they are part of the great scope. So however, the explanations about generation stage and completion stage, we will discuss in another topic or in another module. So I have this wish that all of you can conjoin your daily prayers or whatever practice that you do with the practice of 6 perfections.
So
yeah, the first one that I'm going to talk about is excitement. So according to Compendium of Knowledge, what is excitement? It is an unpeacefulness of mind that subsequently engages an attractive cause. It has the functions of hindering come abiding. So that is all you probably would have known already. So the main obstacles to the achievement of come abiding is laxity and excitement. So this excitement is one of the main obstacles.
Kala shimbo na ji pe towa na bu shimbo ji so bi nong chanjo chi den de go je de ko tos kala towa de sen la le de la ya pe hima khanda ta pe sha chi la wo ka go ba se wa da ma sha ku su ba ji wa kala te pe towa de la cha ni se shi to lu la go ba se de ji so da no so se ge mi ba de la pa se chi do sa no ta ni bi ka pi la this is the so not and the last about the Lucia, the Tulo, Yabuchina, Petulotria, Sina Shao, the Pelape, safe part, Cholwada. Yeah, as I done Nebo Nabujina, young woman was also paid Janebo, she ended up with Nebo Jobber, yeah, Conjevalia, the Ligilla session. What the you want? The Ligipe, Dupatilla Kanda, Saint Cholo, the Kandarwa, you don't want it. But session talk to Cholo. So that was global dependential control the shall chat to this one. The shall chat about yes or the least safe one can save total tostos global with the digital administration.
So excitement is an awareness that upon observing the attributes of the desire realm previously experienced, mentally scatters outwards to them and engages them with craving. So to understand what excitement is, so it is like this. So we do meditations at the beginning of the class, right? We cultivate bodhicitta, we meditate on emptiness, and then we also to conjoin the sessions with the practice of 6 perfections. So when we are doing meditations, like for example, when we focus our mind on a holy image, like for example, the image of Buddha. So when we are trying to cultivate the single pointedness on the Buddha's image, then something that we experienced before, like for example, the desire objects, the desire objects that we previously experienced before. So the desire objects, and another term for it is attributes of the desire realm. So attributes of desire realm or desire objects. So they are the same. So some the desire objects that we previously experienced before, for example, a delicious food, a nice cloth that we wore before, and some nice pleasant sound that we heard before, like for example, a very nice melodious song. So this is something that we previously experienced before, and our mind scattering towards it. So so how to say that the taste of those, the experience of those desire objects appears in our mind, and our mind clings to it. Then our mind scatters towards it. Then that is excitement. So excitement is the mind scattering towards the desire object that is attractive. So attractive desire objects, and this excitement is part of attachment. And it also says excitement is an unpeacefulness of the body and mind. So in great expositions of the stages of the path, Lamrim, its object of observation is a pleasant and attractive object. So just now we talk about the attributes of the desire realms, right? So they are pleasant and they are attractive objects. So our minds see those objects as attractive and pleasant, then our minds cling to it and then scatters to it. It scatters toward it. And its subjective aspect is an unpeacefulness of the mind that is scattered to outward and is involved with attachment. So the mind scattering outwards to other objects. So when we talk about meditative concentration, so meditative concentration is the mind single pointedly focused on the object of observation. So when the meditator heard something, the pleasant sound. So when the person who are doing meditations hears a pleasant sound, and he clings to it. The person clings to it, and then the mind scattered to it. So that is how excitement appears.
초와 길에 샤고 이나야 세 십초와 강가도 그거는 네 말이에서 거야. 세 뭐바데 이도 두바질라데 세 보고와. 그래서 요게 넘바다니 세비 주고와. 요게 넘바다니 길에 차치 그거서 내가 공도와 내가 차도. 다 얘다데 공도서와 나제라서 이게 야 아랑이 세 이빨에 네모도 실파 초로 리오레스와. 수이 우리 양아서 간다 세션은 좋아 강간의 그거 이거 말이에요. 이 컨트롤에서 그거 간다. 이제 샤 컨트롤에서 때 유라 세피긴 주고 말아. 유라 세피긴 주고 말아. 자신은 주고 말아. 오, 다 컨트롤 때 유라 얘가 얘로 나자고 얘로 이거 와. 인제세 원이 좀 얘로 이거. 우리 영화선다 간다 세시로 봐 인제 강간의 그거 말이에요.
So then there is a poem, all outward scatterings of the mind, excitement. So the question here is, are all outward scatterings of the mind excitement or not? And the answer is, I do not hold it to be so. So the answer is no. So excitement is involved with attachment, but the mind is frequently distracted to objects by way of afflictions other than attachment. So so the excitement here refers to a cling to the pleasant object, and then the mind scatters to it, right? And that is part of attachment. However, they are scatterings of the mind to objects that is out of other afflictions as well. For example, out of anger, out of pride, out of competitiveness, mind of competitiveness. So because of these afflictions, then the mind scattering to the objects as well. So that the mind cannot focus on the object and scattering outwards. So therefore, not all scattering of the mind are excitement. So because this excitement is not, it doesn't attach, it doesn't cling to its object. So it is not part of the attachment. However, excitement here is part of the attachment.
我在讲到1月多的来讲到我说年纪没比给我应该那个是吧？给我应该是1月多的了，反正我只能说被心理去讲的呢，就是心理不上去过来心理讲你的呢，这两啥边呢我说强就现在或去上了业务的，强就现在了怕现在了怕业务的，对心理讲罢了，把去起我的，心理讲罢了把去起我的，你那个这段强就现讲罢了，你是别了全部学的话。 가도了자고 가도 그래서 공부는 때 선호다 지금 거는 딜에 심바니 비가라야 민지라서 봐 전주 생활서 딜에 반가바이나 야 공부는 때 공부라야 같이 해야 되는 거야 다 든지 와서 가도 좀 와서 두발라 시비를 봐 다시 신이라 그서지 거라 지금 넘바 자는 그 선호다 싶가래 전주 그 세들라 봐 상호 진전 되는데 다시 이용한테 전주 세 상호한테 기회로 와 이 생지로와 이 생지를 되나 니바 상업방사 니바 에서 들파 예차 가와 들파 예차 다 간다 이용한 건가 뭐가 이 말이 너무 말이지 와
And also, the scattering of the mind is not necessarily afflicted. It can be afflicted or it can be non-afflicted as well. So, like for example, if one trying to cultivate calm abiding, and while one is trying to cultivate calm abiding, if a bodhicitta mind arises, so or if a compassion mind arises, and your mind scatters to compassions or bodhicitta. Since the scattering of the mind to bodhicitta and compassions, since a bodhicitta and compassion is not the main object of focus, therefore, when the mind scatters to bodhicitta or compassions, it becomes an obstacle to the cultivations of calm abiding. So in general, when we talk about bodhicitta and compassions, it is good, right? It is virtue, it is a virtuous mind. So however, in this context, when the person is trying to cultivate calm abiding, that compassions and bodhicitta is not the main object of focus. The main object of focus is to cultivate calm abiding. So if one is trying to cultivate calm abiding and mind scatters to bodhicitta or scatters to compassions, then it becomes an obstacle to the cultivations of calm abiding. So not all scattering of mind is non-virtue. It can be scatters to virtuous objects of observation. And 15 is non-faith. And what is non-faith? It is a non-conviction, non-clarity, and non-wishing of the mind with respect to virtuous phenomena, and is involved with ignorance. So non-conviction doesn't basically means do not believe. So if the person do not believe in something, faith do not come. Faith will not arise, right? It's like, for example, if one do not believe Buddha, so when they see an image of Buddha, then faith do not arise. And it has the functions of acting as a support for laziness. So it's quite obvious, right? If one do not have any faith in, like, for example, cause and effect, then they will not practice Dharma, they will not study, right? They will not study Dharma as well. They will just ignore it, neglect it, and then one falls under the control of laziness. So if, on the contrary, if one have faith, like, for example, have faith in cause and effect, then one will not fall under the control of laziness, and then and on top of that, joyous effort will arise. It is the discordant class of faith. So discordant class of faith means the opposite of faith. So if you cultivate faith in Buddha's body, then you counteract the non-faith in the Buddha's image, or in the Buddha's body. So faith and non-faith, they are opposite. So if you cultivate faith, then it counteract a non-faith. So this non-faith is the discordant class of faith. In other way of saying this is the opposite of faith, and is involved with ignorance. So it is involved in ignorance because ignorance is not knowing unknowing of the meaning, or unknowing of the truth. Like, for example, if one do not know about the meaning of the Buddha's image, do not know about the reality or the truth about the Buddha's image, or do not know about the truth of phenomena, or even wrongly grasp it, then non-faith will arise. Faith do not arise, non-faith will arise.
That much under in sort that our land and non-digital Najin Lami Kusula Majani Deva, Shetan Shiva, the devil, the Kula time, the Sola, Tula Wendish Devas, when the Devas Son Shangua. I did that the Aron of the Aron Kula time, the Sola, Tula Wendish Devas. That Kula time devil condition. Sola, each devil condition. Tula Wendish devil condition. That other dinner related. It was a machine.
And it is of three types: non-faith of non-conviction, non-faith of non-clarity, and non-faith of non-wishing. So here is talking about the discordant class of faith, right? So previously we, when we learned about faith, then we talk about there are three types of faith. So these three faiths are faith of conviction, faith of clarity, faith of wishing, or wishing faith. Yeah. So, and then the example that I usually connect it or link it with the body, speech, and mind of one's lama. So faith of conviction arises in the body, in the lama's body, and faith of clarity arises in the lama's speech, and wishing faith arises in the lama's mind. And the opposite of it is non-faith of non-conviction, non-faith of non-clarity, non-faith of non-wishing.
But another like that, each table with the shirt, that delicious, the catula, lady like image table, is not lady like she table. The Sanji is so like she table, is short. That Sanji is so like each table taking the
Sangi, ale Sangi, soon in a year, they were on the
pull up tiny table, put towards the table, how much in a pull up tiny table. So like she table, so like.
Yeah, sorry. I say faith of clarity. Faith of clarity is linked to the lama's body, and faith of conviction is linked to lama's speech. So I about it just now. So yeah, faith of clarity is in relation to the lama's body. Faith of conviction is in relation to lama's speech.
Oh, that each table meditation, Lenny also each table meditation. Meditation, that might be Lenny each never. Lenny each never, Lenny Madibas. That's Sanji Sola, Madibas. Sanji Sola was each table Shakura, each table. That's Sanji Sola each never. That Madibas.
So the first one, non-faith of non-convictions in actions and their results and so forth. For example, lamas, the Buddha's speech, so in actions and their results and so forth. For example, Buddha's speech, the discordant class of the faith of conviction.
Sanji不同啊，这种是대박接的，대박他就是不同啊，对吧？是吧？不同啊，上个人民不同啊，대박接的，那人民就不同啊的了，那个呢，台湾没是什么给，对了嘛，대박接，那大大没去那什么？
那人民去沟通的，
我说人民就不同的，对了，대박，台湾没把대박让他接，也是过了同意대박是，那等了过了同意대박的接的，那对了没得说，那人民就过了是吧？等于同意的。对了，sem给我买的吧，台湾没去sem给买的吧，对了，买的吧的，你多少多少，我想我你没得说。
Non-faith of non-clarity and mental dislike with respect to the possessors of excellent qualities, such as three jewels, lamas, lamas and Buddhas. So the discordant class of the faith of clarity. So this non-faith of non-clarity, basically, if one sees Buddha's body or Lama's body, then naturally the faith arises in them. So that is faith of conviction, faith of clarity. Sorry, faith of clarity. Or there is another type of another translation is faith of admiration. So faith of clarity or faith of admiration arises when you see Buddha's body, when you see Lama's body. So when you see Lamas or Buddha's body and you do not have faith, or you do not have these admirations, then that is non-faith of non-clarity. And the third type is non-faith of non-wishing and non-seeking of liberation and so forth, the discordant class of wishing faith. So the discordant class is the opposite of wishing faith, this non-faith of non-wishing. So when we see the mental qualities of lamas, then in our mind, there is a mind striving to achieve those qualities arises in oneself. So how nice if I achieve those good qualities. So the qualities in the mental qualities of Lama, for example, the truth of sensations and the truth of the path in their mind stream. So if you develop this mind striving to achieve those good qualities, then that is faith, that is wishing faith. So then the opposite of it, the non-faith of non-wishing is, so you do not seek or you do not strive to achieve those mental good qualities of Lama, and then you do not have any faith in that, then that is non-faith of non-wishing. The next one is laziness. What is laziness? It is a non-enthusiasm of the mind, engendered by the comfort of lying down, reclining on one's side, and slouching about, and is involved with ignorance. It has the functions of hindering application to the class of virtue. So basically, if one has laziness, then one will not engage. One will not accomplish virtue because they are the main obstacles for one to accomplish virtue. So if one has laziness or laziness arises in one's mind, then one will, due to falling under the control of laziness, one will not be able to accomplish what one's supposed to do. And one wish to achieve, then because of laziness, you also cannot achieve it. And then your work, because of laziness, you also do not accomplish your work, and you do not accomplish your studies as well because of laziness. And he says, by the comfort of lying down, reclining on one side and slouching about, right? So it's easy to understand when we eat a lot. And when we drink a lot, we eat a lot. Like, for example, if you go to a party and then if we eat a lot, drink a lot, then we have this full belly. And then we lie down. And we lie down, then we don't feel like moving or not, we feel like not doing anything, right? So when you don't feel like doing anything, then obviously you are not going to accomplish anything Dharma related, and you are not going to finish any housework as well. So you don't even feel like moving, and it is part of ignorance.
That the Luna Yawala Sobala, number King Giwala Sim Toa, Asita, and the Disha. Nyawala Nyawada, I had 2 Zilla Shin, Dick and the Gisha do a same door. That is a cheap some of Nyawala Gawa, Sawala Gawa, Tuala Gawa. That is a big Gawa, Tanja Shin. Ye Gisha do a Gawam, that on the daily Lantosa, no me dance. Oh, did it.
Just as it has been said above, it is a non-enthusiasm of the mind for virtue due to a habit of lying down and so forth. So forth includes food, drink, and etc. So if you like, if you like lying down, if you like to eat a lot, drink, like the food very much, like the drinks very much, then you will not have this enthusiastic mind for virtue, right? When you have so much liking for lying down, the comfort of lying down, and food and drink, then you do not have this enthusiastic mind for virtue.
Yeah, Kala Shimbo Sawa, the Shimbo Tunga, Samang in Loma, and there was a big Mata. That was Saya, here, Satuya, the Shimbo the Tung, they pay New Atanja Chine, they gish our Majing to the lower. Yape Saya, Yapo Satuya, Yapo Tunepe, Yape, so Kali Jenny, Lega, Kali Jeba. Gish out to win a Kali Jeba to be Yorwa. That the Sule Loma to do Mata. Yeah, the someone on the knee of that. Ni Sati Shimbo Sati Kanga,
So, but I'm not saying that any eating food or any drinking waters becomes is for it doesn't mean that eating food and all kinds of eating foods, all kinds of drinking water is under the control of laziness. So if you like the food very much, if you drink those drinks a lot, you like those water beverages very much, and then you like the comfort of lying down, and not doing anything, then yeah, it falls under the control of laziness. However, if you after hard works, so after you have accomplished your tasks and etc., so after hard work, then you eat nice food and you drink water, then that is not under the control of laziness. So not all kinds of eating food, not all kinds of drinking water is under the control of laziness.
That didn't do the so we got Yamuna to Hijin and the Leno is Leno in the Kana use. That Kana little Gia, but the Tele Chip, the chip in the Chinese. That did it. But Leno, she was your wine at that, being showered to the Pachi, she gets also that Kana Leno, but that being showered Geo Pachi. That we are into Maris, that Leno.
And the close placements of mindfulness says the one basis for afflictions is laziness. Who has it? Wherever laziness is present, all dharma is absent. So all virtuous dharma is absent. So if one fall under the control of laziness, then it becomes the main obstacles for one to accomplish virtuous activities.
Namada Zasana Chupa Shuabi, Sawaji and Lenolet. Nama Sama Machiba Madiban Tunichi Leno. Hanging money should say to Leno, Toto Leno Soshibna, Shawang and Balakin Leno G, Shawang and Hila, and Balakin Leno. Shishu Leno, Gidi Lenos, Leno Desula, and indigenous Chibana Leno Yadana is Mamboy. You know that Desula, you know, do it. But you do know. Shawang Hijileno, Shishu Gileno, Gilu Bilenos, Little soon,
And this laziness is also a source of problems, a source of troubles, like in a family. Then this laziness is one of the source of problems or troubles. So when we talk about laziness, so in general, there are many divisions of laziness. However, it can be included in general, included in these three types of laziness. So what are these three types of laziness? So these I mentioned several times already. The first one is laziness of clinging to negative activities. And the second one is laziness of procrastination, laziness of procrastinations of postpone. And the third one is laziness of low esteem. So these are the three general divisions of laziness. So the first one is laziness of clinging to negative activities. So these types of laziness is the source, or is the one that cause disharmony in family, cause disharmony in friendship, in the relationship between parents and children, and also it causes our work not to be able to finish. So, for example, the example for laziness of clinging to negative activities is gambling. So, when if one gambles, then there is a danger that we will lose everything. Whatever we have, then we will lose it to gambling. For example, however much money we have. So, if one falls under the control of laziness, clinging to negativities such as gambling, then however much money you have, your property, everything, you will lose it, and because you will gamble, you use it as a you will sell it and then you use it to gamble. And even if you have house, then you will lose your house, or you mortgage your house. So however much money you have in your bank account, and because of this laziness of clinging to negative activities such as gambling, then even you have a lot of money in your bank account, you will lose it as well. So these types of laziness is the one who harm your livelihood, and also who harm your happiness. And so we talk about the faults of laziness of clinging to negative activities such as gambling. Then, like what I mentioned just now, it harms your livelihood, it harms your happiness, and the worst these types of laziness could bring is you lose your life, you die because of this laziness. So, like gambling, then many people because of gambling, then they lose all they have, and then they commit suicide, and then some then they kill others. So that is the worst disadvantages of this laziness. So it basically it ruins your happiness, it ruins your livelihood, it ruins your relationship, it ruins your friendship. Basically, it is the ruin for everything good. So when we have this laziness clinging to negative activities, so even no matter how small it is, then if we realize it, then we must put a stop to it immediately. So otherwise, if you do not put a stop to it, and then you just habituate yourself with this small laziness of clinging to negative activities, then over time it will become stronger and stronger. So when it becomes stronger and stronger, then how's it, the faults and the disadvantages that it brings, it becomes more and more harmful. So, and there are many different types of many ways to gamble, right? So we have to avoid we have to avoid this laziness clinging to negative activities to arise in one's mind.
Dio shower to Pala, yeah, tissue to other, so no Lega Chela, tissue to shoot the Swadi. That she shoot the little Swadi, did that. Susula Peshavina, that Narabe low Suchi Shichise, Lega, Tijelang as a church, the Niki sound in Levina. That the she shoot a little bit, tissue chamber, wow. So, Peshavina, at that three, Hele Denisoni, a thing as a logic chili, Nani chili is Tuchi, three, Hele Soni, chili, yes, she should each other. That's only in the young Nimakashi Jelani, logic, that's on money Hele Denis. The Dawa Dilla Hele Denis, Dawa Gemala chilis, Dawa Gemani Gemal chili, Dawa Gemal Lo Gema. That Lo Gema get the Anja Lokashi Rosa. That she should allow them Suso did that. Susugi. That non lega in the Tegari, non lega Pesusu, gender Dubiagina, that's only to the degrees, Yanoni, General degrees, Dawa Gemal General degrees. That the deep pash, the Shinjatan that. The Sipa Jan Jan. That the Jan Jan, Susu said to Rora. Susu said to Lega to get Pajan in Tango. That Lega Jan Rembo, the Susu said to go. So said the mill, those are what Lega, John Rebo Casatan, Tanda. You say, Papa, Mobutaya, the Jenny just went to Tonda. So would say it in time. Yomara. Oh, the indigenous Lega current on a tissue drug, Sarge, the church, the loss of it.
And another type of the second type of laziness, which is laziness of procrastination, is also a very bad type of laziness as well, because if one falls under the control of these types of laziness, then it hinders oneself. Oneself to practice virtuous activities, and also cannot finish one's housework as well. Like for example, one example is, I'm going to work hard for until age of 30 or 40, then after that, then I will start to practice Dharma. So this is one example for laziness of procrastinations as well. And another example is whatever Dharma activities, Dharma practices, or your housework, or whatever works you have. So if you think that, today I'm going to relax about not doing anything about it, and tomorrow only I will do something about it, practice, or I will start to do it, etc. So however, when it's tomorrow, then the next day, then you think I'm going to do it a few days later. Then a few days later, then you think that then you think that you are going to do it next month. Then next month, then you're going to think about doing it next week. Next week, next month, next year, etc. So you will only prolong. You will only postpone it to later times because of this laziness or procrastinations. So you postpone things you're supposed to do to a later time. So even though you can postpone it to later time or much later times, so the longer durations that you postpone what you're supposed to do, and the shorter your lifespan becomes. So you can even postpone what you're supposed to do 100 years later, but you do not have the lifespan of 100 years to spend, right? So so you can postpone it to however long you want. However, your lifespan will not be able to match with it. So it's not enough. It's not sufficient long enough for you to accomplish that job or that dharma activities if you have this if one has this laziness or procrastination. Sometimes we like to delay things, or we like to postpone things to a later time, right? So just the example just now can be 100 years old. You can even postpone it to 200 years old or even 1,000 years old later. So you can think about postponing it to to much later times, as if you have that much lifetime to spend. You can think about postponing it like that, as if you have as if you have such lifespan to spend. So however, the more you expand, the more you postpone, and the more you postpone, the shorter your lifespan becomes, and yet we do not aware of it.
That's somebody that that's a pay. Nimbo ni jobo se ni pe wa ji bi le so pe ni kalo ta ji lu bi le so ni jire kanda ta ngalo bo china ta ngi to bo na wa ya shi chi ba ina da ta chu do sin da china ta chono din cha ji le pe kanda 로저 약보지 제시다 양이 약보지 제시다 세 길러봐이나 that's 난주도 무슨 간디 때문에 동바 참아도만 베스마 티스 좀 나마 차 나한테 가 제투래 세지어라 이 간디 제투래 했더니 근데 가 제투에서는 지유 봤어 그래 이 뜻이 가 제투래 했으면 빼 세마 세 쇼미서 따라서 봐 수복 난주 참아도만 티스 봐 땅이나 보시 제목 들리실 때 저도 그 같이 투구에서 들리나 보시 답변 샤바이나 저나 이양만 총조서 라바이나 땅나 간총 투구에서 원 단위로 하다디 이양만 주는 아시도 그래 간총 투구에서 디 원이 동바마 내주다 보지 마좀 때리 땡거네 나나 땡다 보지 마 밀로 와 다들 로중이 제 dindatil nyane ya ku chise ka chi ture don nan ju tini da de yang chung jo so da na wo ji di chao de so ko wa ji lu be de so so number 10 da na wo ji ka lu ba ma ti ku dong ba ku ren jo dan.
And the third type of laziness is laziness of low esteem. So these types of laziness, it might sounds kind of like humble, and however it is not so. So like for example, if a good friend of you, a Dharma good friend of you, say to you like, we are going to study Dharma for 1 week, or we are going to practice Dharma for 1 week. So and then our reactions is our facial expressions is immediately turns sour, as if you have eaten something very sour, then your face expressions then start to, as it becomes like very sour, and then you say that how can I do that? So not just your facial expressions showing that it is a is something that you cannot do, and you even verbally express it. How could I do that? So and your mind are discouraged, and even your physical gesture also becomes weak or weakened. So as if someone asking you to jump off a cliff, So if someone were to ask you to jump off of a cliff, then you would say, how can I do that? If I jump, then I will die, right? Then at that time, it is okay to show the sour face, and then the physical gesture also show a bit timid, etc. So, however, if someone asking you to practice Dharma or study Dharma for 1 week, and then you also show that kind of face, that sour face, then that is the laziness of low esteem.
다 지르비네 된다들에 소소기 야지 랑스나 가르스레 케발마 맞아 불러다 갈로 딜마 또 첨부들이 끌로 주장한테지마 따 타박 따 양고마지 양라마 두바 마 네게 반다고시 뭐 딘디로 오지레 다 가다 지르비네 넣어서데 네 가르이나 지체 두고 말했으나 야세 좀 쇼알라기 누가 나를 간디 제외이나 두 모두가 싸웠는데 요 말을 소야 두 두그래서 와다 지르벨을 써다 제 두고 말에 니 제도가 예샤와 간디 두고나 제 두고마 두 두고마 장자세 세 shum바 장자 시에래 와지 어 들이다고 있다 지르벨을 써다 와야 랑스네 랑타마 지고 서보니 도 킬로 쭈장하지마 따르고 타바지마 따르 마티에서 산듯이
And this laziness of low esteem then is likened to like when you're trying to get up, but you feel so heavy, your body feels so heavy, as if your waist or your waist is tied to 100 kgs rock or stones, very heavy stuff. So with a rope. So if you have this heavy load to carry, so if you're trying to get up, then you feel very difficult to get up, right? So this kind of laziness of low esteem, it is like this. It's likened to this. So Shantideva mentioned before, Bodhisattva Shantideva says that there is no virtuous activities that you can accomplish. Another way of saying this is you can accomplish any virtuous activities. So if one just keep thinking about, oh, I cannot do this, I cannot do that, then and you feel this discouraged mind, and you feel discouraged and you feel distressed and you feel demotivated, then you even express that, oh, I cannot do that, etc. Then that is laziness of low esteem.
Oh, that is the look I want to do. I think that G to the lesson that children, the Kalejana on it. That notion that children are Kalena sound within my do it. They want to go. That and then they know this condition and the 20 meditation child. 20 meditation child, not the war. 20 child, I teach each. 20 child, I teach. And then also, she's a party to win a little sometimes. That you see, you got a party to win a little somebody, some does it. They know this one, the birds and a target. Party to win a little song of that.
So in brief, laziness is this laziness of low esteem is you only think about the hardship, you only think about the difficulties when you come to accomplish Dharma, or when you come to practice Dharma, you only think about hardship, you only think about the difficulties, and that is laziness of low esteem. So, and this is the opposite of joyous effort. So this laziness is the opposite of joyous effort, and it is the obstacles for one to cultivate joyous effort. Remember at the beginning of the class, we conjoined this session with the practice of six perfections, right? And one of it is a joyous effort. So if we fall under the control of laziness, any of this type, then this session is not conjoined with the practice of a joyous effort anymore.
That was a dream of Bami in the Roa. Bami by the number of Bami Baga Chaba and Chidana, Finland, Chibani, Big Shawana, Mago, Sabbath to the channel, same as one. Then Magiwa Pua, the one to be teaching the rest of the day. She did the rest. Magiwa Pua, that you want invitation.
And what, next one is non-conscientiousness. What is non-conscientiousness? Abiding with attachment, hatred, ignorance, as well as laziness. It is a non-cultivation of virtuous qualities and non-guarding of the mind against contaminated phenomena. It has the functions of acting as a support for the increase of non-virtue and the decrease of virtue.
That and was a bomb about the biochemistry. Bioso H. Also, but three are both somebody. Chamber heating biosoma thing, that's a bit without the sober. Chamber heating suggestion, this one, chamber the heating bios, this one, thing, that's a bit without some to work. Loa, chamber the heating bios thing. That and that the Bamis or the biochemistry, biochemistry. Bios or the rangi, say the gay shower, but I'm McGee shower and room machine, the sunket. McGee shower. Mentishula pa ndo majingi mentishula pa mando ndo majingi geishaula tsukumi kelochi ayose warwa dirwa da pamese wade te ngazo nyomu gela pa ndo ja mato geishawa duala tsu yuwa ma geishawa duala se tsu yuwa ma megi shawa nyomu shula pa ndo ja pamese da tini tata kro mentishula bunga ayo mentishula Why so that say the gay shower to Palazzo, the new Pandoma Chinch, new Mushola, Shawang Wala. That Pamis or the new Mushola Pandora. Gay shower to Palazzo, my unit. What is that?
Yeah, so this non-conscientiousness is the discording class of conscientiousness. In other words, saying this is non-conscientiousness is the opposite of conscientiousness. So if one wants to guard, if one wants to keep morality properly, then one has to rely on three factors. One is mindfulness. The second one is vigilance or introspection, which we are going to talk about, the opposite of which we will talk about it later. And next one is conscientiousness. So we have to depend on these three factors: mindfulness, introspections, or vigilance, and conscientiousness. Then one will be able to guard or keep our morality purely. So conscientiousness is about focus. Is focusing on the virtuous activities, and do not let your mind go to its discordant class. For example, the negative activities or afflictions. So you're able to keep the mind from going to the discordant class. So that is conscientiousness. So the opposite of it, non-conscientiousness, is non-conscientiousness let the mind go to the affliction side, or let the mind go to the discordant side, and not able to bring it to the side of virtuous activities. So that is non-conscientiousness, opposite of conscientiousness. So, in brief, the nature of non-conscientiousness is an awareness that not guarding the mind against the host of afflictions and misdeeds gives in to relaxation. So not keeping the mind against the host of afflictions and misdeeds, and you gives in to relaxation. So that is the nature of non-conscientiousness. And 18, forgetfulness. What is forgetfulness? It is the mindfulness that is concomitant with afflictions. It has the functions of acting as a support for distraction. The nature of forgetfulness is it is a knower. There is a mental unclarity and forgetting of virtue on account of being mindful of an object of observations of afflictions. So here is a knower. There is a mental unclarity and forgetting of virtue on account of being mindful of an afflicted object of observation. So this is the nature of forgetfulness. So regarding this forgetfulness is very much related to us. It's very much related to us. So we do prayers, right? Like some you do daily prayers, some then you do sadhana. So when you before you start those recitations, then you set a good motivations, right? So then you start your prayers recitation. So by right, your mind is supposed to be focused on it, right? Your mind stay with the prayers or focus on the prayers. However, at one point, then you start to think, your mind start to think about your housework, start to think about your work, and start to think about your family. And then you even, in your mind, clinging to a delicious taste, a delicious food arises in your mind. Then you realize that oh, my mind is then your mind distracted to it. Then when you look at the prayers again, so then you realize it, then you look at your prayers again, you don't know where you stopped. You don't know where you stopped before you get distracted, before clinging to food arises in your mind. So you do not know where you stopped, then that is the mind being unclear with the objects of observations, and you do not remember it, and that is forgetfulness. That's why I said forgetfulness is very much related to us.
Oh, that is not also content there. The genius was the answer. Nanji pe jembasi was the answer. Pe shawal pe majiba. So ngazo kasi ngumalang ngo liorda. So diwa. Ngachi ni chuesu pa di kati yo ta chingwa ngazo. Di kati ngachi ni chuesu ngalo pe sida te majiba. Ni shadwa pe shawara ni shadwa pe susu chu ni ala ni shadwa no shi jeba ina e tenda pe susu bonji ada oba che de ji yu du ma ka le khaboro ma shadwa ma antu ni ne ma ansana bin diwa ma de e temba su ju ta kar susu kheba ina temba ya bu shi ba ina da temba ngazo diwa ni shadwa ba temba e dirda chu kheba de Some of the change to watch it. Indeed, City Carcavan did the Sena, nearby the chamber Chitubina. They made it negotiable to the years so on the Tobachi the Gish or the bar. That Carrot Turbine at Summer Timber get a Yidinaji, Jing Chasalina. Susu Gish or the Tobachi, get a la Chimosa, they can let nobody in that and the genius was the chamber Nimuchi. Gish or do by the chamber the chamber you are. The chamber needle was a patient. Chamber needle. And that the genius or the Gish or do by the sea, 예 차세 칼라라서 봐 드디 나페 셰차치네 디테니 딜 칼라도 딘 딜바 템바 때문에 로자딜라 지니스다 템바 니무치 템바 니무치 다 기샤와라 서 찌찌 드리미 바드리 안자 상호판의 템바 그다음에 템바 야 다기 샤와도 템바 들어와 이게 네 샤도와 다 많이 봐 들어와 시대에 마지바 세나 템보 신의 템바가 소위나 시대 때 가르쳐 봐이나 마지바 세나 템보 신의 템바 소바이나 그 글발라 템보도 두고 그래 세고와 다 시다 시태바도 소소리 세나 마지바 템비기 소마도 바이나 지바 좋아 템비 소마도 바 지바이나 때 가르쳐 두고 말해 세고
Yeah, so that's why I said, this forgetfulness is very much related to us, especially those who have daily prayers to do and those who recite, those who do sadhanas. So it is very much related to us. So this forgetfulness is versus mindfulness. So forgetfulness is also a type of mindfulness as well. However, this forgetfulness is a type of afflicted mindfulness that remembers how's it, the delicious food that you previously experienced before. So it's an afflicted mindfulness of food, for example. And on the contrary, when we talk about mindfulness, so mindfulness is not forgetting about the virtuous activities. So this is the virtuous type of mindfulness. It is not an afflicted type of mindfulness. So even at the beginning of Lamrim, we did talk about abandoning the three faults of vessel, if you still remember. And one of it is the leaky bottom, the faults of leaky bottom. So faults of leaky bottom shows refers to this forgetfulness. So whatever words you hear on one ear and then out the other. So that is forgetfulness. You do not retain anything, you do not retain any words or meaning that you have heard. So because you hear, as a here goes in and then out the other, so you do not retain anything in your mind. So since you do not retain any words and meaning in your mind, then don't mention about developing realizations and don't mention about accumulating extensive merits or roots of virtue. So it's not going to happen. And then don't mention about accomplishing great purposes, because since you do not even retain anything, then what you accomplish is also nothing. So yeah, so therefore it's very important to listen to the teachings, the words and the meaning, and then you keep it in your mind. So that is very important.
Oh, to stop this, conduct genius or the Jashin of Jason, the Sawa Jepala. Genius has a little Jashin of the Katula. Gisim Sawa. That's what the Gisim Masawa Jebala, as you go to Shusaratan as a giver to Bala. The James said the Yamuchi one of the Pandot he lost a lima. That is the kind of Kupanga Rajil that the mud moved away. You temper Yamuchi, he was temper Yamuchi, yes. Temper Yamuchi, but he would take Gisim Masawa as it. Gisim Masawa Jebala, Genius.
Yeah. So and then discussions of the five aggregates, so-called discussions of the five aggregates. He also says that forgetfulness is an afflicted mindfulness, whereby forgetting of virtue within mental unclarity is called forgetfulness. So this is the etymology. Basically, is the words, explanations of the words. So forgetting of virtue within mental unclarity is called forgetfulness. The next one is non-introspection. What is non-introspection? A wisdom that is concomitant with afflictions and engages unknowingly in activities of body, speech, and mind, and it has the functions of acting as a support for infractions.
전부 희기 바이오스 때는 아주 스튜디다고 그래서 희기서와데 그래서 비시와 스튜디다고 내가 요즘 누구도 그래서 소바라고 그래서 휴이말 같은 거와 희기서와 스스로 그 지지선을 때가 이 지지에도 누구도 그 빠지지 소바라시 그래서 리가나 마음이 그 소화가 상사들라 미셰다 그 요금도 소바 마음도 소바라시 희기서 스스로 지지야 보지 소바가 지지들한테 모두 소바를 했어요. 어디 희귀스 때문에. 어디 문제도 희귀 많이 봤을 때.
Yeah, so as I mentioned just now, in order to keep morality properly, then one has to rely on three factors: mindfulness, introspections or vigilance, and conscientiousness. So these introspections or vigilance is like a spy. So it's like a spy or it's like a watchman. So in order to cut your morality properly, then these introspections, it checks or it watches whether any faults or any faults that will cause distraction, that will cause transgressions to arise. It watches it, whether is there anything that will cause transgressions or not. So this is introspections. So it's like sometimes you go to a what's that? You go to a country and then the borderline, then there are many watchtowers, right? And then in each of the watchtower there are watchmen, or they check whether enemies or opponents coming or not. So that introspection is like this. The introspection is like the watchman or is like the spy. So the opposite of this is non-introspection. Die 가장 어디에?
희귀 좀 드셔. 더 희귀 좀 드셔. 무슨 줘봐라 하세요. 줘봐라. 무슨 희귀 좀 드셔. 무슨 다 샤워는 받을 줄 알아. 다 희귀 많이 받는 희귀들 그런 게 샤워는 받을 예수 주부터 시는 문제 해서.
Yeah, so non-introspections so the nature of non-introspection is an afflicted wisdom that engages unknowingly in activities of the three doors. And it is the discordant class of introspection, the opposite of introspection.
나 뒤지러 왔다. 간다 시시 많이 뒤지러 와. 나 뒤에서 들어와는 얘기 다 사거든.
No.
그래서 뭐 그거 당연히 있었어.
So I stop here, and do you have any question? And if you do have any questions, you can ask right now.
Gishla, I have one question regarding laziness. Besides the three that Krishna mentioned, isn't there one more, which is the laziness of meaningless activity, which is engaging in activities which is non-dharma, for example? I mean, just meaningless activity like watching TV or. Isn't there one more? I think there's four. I think. I'm just asking a question, but there's one more.
Ini di tangi lelo ki kola ini di yewa sum le sum bagi jela. Yang sum le yang ji yang kazan tuba ji yorewa, shenda ji yang yorewa. Kazan pena chashena ni TV di taya kabu yoba jabo ina di yang lelo shenda ji ina nanti chawang yin shingi lelo la zu yore.
That's shishu ji lelo ndogure ya so gi shawa ji duguna de la mitcho ndogurwa.
chawang yin shingi lelo.
Chawang yin shingi lelo la ndogure. gi shawa duwa pachi shingi jirwa.
Jidang ina di yewa ne sum yo na shi yo na gishla.
근데 지금 논지 용다 송 시브레 대카히 시와 들리 샤네 요레
시가 대한 데 요래.
요레 제가 봤더니 요래 요래 대다 또 단다 디스노 디도 그랬어.
So in general, they are So the divisions of laziness can be 3, can be 4 or 5. So the 3 are the general ones that includes the others types of laziness. So like the laziness, like for example, like watching TVs, etc. Yeah, it can be it can be included in the laziness of clinging to negative activities, or it can be laziness of procrastinations as well. It depends on the situations. Yeah, so basically, other types of laziness are included in these 3 types of laziness. Like for example, the watching TV. So if one, have something needed to be done, but if you just postpone it and then watch TV first, then that is it belongs to the laziness of procrastinations. Yeah. So this example of watching TV can be laziness of clinging to negative activities, or it can be a laziness of procrastination. Like for example, if you watch TV, then you watch a football match, then you also gamble about it. You also gamble, then it becomes a laziness of clinging to negative. So if you just watch football match and also not gamble, then yeah, it's kind of a neutral. So it's not part of laziness of clinging to negative activities, but it will become a laziness of procrastinations.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question? Sometimes when you do sadhanas from memory, suddenly we reciting from memory one sadhana, say Avalokitesvara sadhana, then suddenly, without knowing, we seem to be reciting a verse from another sadhana. Similarly, from another sadhana, for example, Ayatara or Vachoguru, whatever. And sometimes it happens in mantras also. So I'm citing mantras, say Om Home or Om Ahom Ben Chagru Ben Masim, whatever. Then suddenly I find that I'm actually citing Aryatara or something other than the mantras. What is that? Is that the non-introspection? Or is it forgetfulness or whatever? It's both are virtues, one mantra to another mantra, but somehow you are reciting this mantra, then suddenly you find that you are actually reciting another this mantra. Similarly with sadhanas which are done from memory.
Memory not good.
Yeah, so bên cha chana ni ngon chu sam wa di kaza dagi di tuen ka la ni di bisha di dagi omaro ni di dagi di an kazi yi to ne ni di tuen ba to bo ina ni di bên cha chana zu di jin ren zi dagi di tuen gi yore de ni di hope de kala ni di sam shin mai ba yang kaza zu di yang ha ma ko wa ni di jin ren zi dagi di si de ma de ba che ni yang dara gi joma gi dagi di yang tuen gi yore 참사 비대야 중요해. 대 페이지에 페니바도 왜나 야마니 숭아데니 디사베가라 야나 디굴름 비체게 숭아데 사베가라 니 디사게 니 홉데가라 양게디 가자니 하마고 바니 디양 조마기가 디사기 요레스 참사마 디차기 요로 에니 디양 시신 마이나 야나 제녜이나 가이스나 디 가자가 된바다 다게 된바니 디 기와로 其实你的谢谢买买那几个，
그래서 가서 등이 간도서 말해서 시시 많이 징에서 가서 생명무지 전박에 딜라테네 징에시 고가 징에서 명무지 전박 생명무지 전박 때문에 받아 징에서 기샤와 무사와지 나도 단단서 기샤와 배 나도 기샤와 기샤와에 이나 딜리케로서 말해서
징에 봐. 근데 시시 많이買나?
시시 많이 받아 가서 시시 좀 디쇼도 거라. 대체 시시 많이 받게 되는 좀 됐어. 시시 좀 디쇼도 가서 들어와. 지난 가서 지난 시시 많이 봐서 가서 디디 제봐야 되다. 시시 많이 봐서 가서 양 가서 그 밑바 대사 디디 제봐야 되잖아. 와.
미바 대사.
미바 대사 디디 제봐야 되잖아. 와.
근데 중앙이나 가서 연륜 잡고 있는데 가르쳐 봐.
다 신당 가서 시신 써야 돼. 이 샤워 두발라 데리와 신다pe 같이 연구도 모두 근데시 서버 지내는 것도 시신 치료와 이 샤워 두발. 다 시신 많이 봤어야 돼. 다 근데 이 샤워 두발라 서버 지내 많이 봤. 이 샤워 두발라 서버 지내 대다 문티쇼. 시신 대다 문티쇼 샤워 지내는 거 지와. 단다디 니가 로서 말을 지고 있어.
이니디 가르라 줘야 돼.
내가 저 데코로 민파 제모제는 와 대청 그래서 스스로 배 가는 것은 그 넘버 찐냐는 거는 신나를 판도 봐이나 스스로 민파 제모제는 와 이 샤워도 민파 제는 와
이니디 사마고네 이니디
지오게요로 스스로 카투만 내가 같이 잡고 스스로 카투 사다나 같은 거는 된다는 거는 신다 사다나 진짜와이나 카투 사다나 내가 같이 지고 내가 같이 지고 그러면 야 미신 그
연륜 잡고 있나데 양지 연륜 연륜 개요마요 요 개요마 쳔바니 뒤에 가서디 야보 마수마기 교연 잡고 있나
야보 미바케 마레스 네 야보 미바케 마레스 나서 이노 그 도미기 페사다나 내고야나 저런 그 심벌 툴에 카면에 신다 이제다 본한테 봐이나 세나 돼야 도미기 사다나 내가 찾듯이 데코 딜라 아치 이거랬고
이니디 가서 연륜기 기자기요 yeah so yeah I how say it's not forgetfulness because how say forgetfulness is the afflicted mindfulness, right? It depends on this, then one do not engage in virtue. And similarly non-introspections, so introspection on the positive side then is how say in order to accomplish virtue, then yeah, so non-introspections is the discordant class of introspections when one engaged in virtuous activities. So in my opinion, so whatever that you mentioned just now, I don't think is how say it involve any secondary afflictions. It's just that how say when you're supposed to recite a prayer, but you recite the prayers of another, then it becomes obstacles to your the prayers that you are currently doing. So, however, don't seems like any secondary afflictions are involved.
시기 많이 받아 재미는 너무지 이거 선도하러 너무지 이거 됐어. 그래도 소리 가서 너무지 원하는 거 같아 말어.
Yeah, so because non-introspections and forgetfulness, they are afflicted. So, however, the example that you mentioned just now is not afflicted.
Okay, can I ask a question, please? Yeah. On can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, okay. For E18, forgetfulness, and E19, non-introspection, which class of the poison does it come from? Usually, sometimes they say belonging to a certain group, right? I think ignorance is always there, but is it just ignorance alone, or is it combination with the other two poisons, like attachment and so on? Thanks.
So, thank you. Ini di jenye tang sisi main ba. Ini yang nyenyu senda ina tiang kasa timu ki chado di segi warwa. Ini di jenye kari ki chado re timugi chado ina yana tiang timu jibo maimba yang tusumgi chado ina ini tiang anangshi tinangshi yang shishi maimba yang timugi chado ina yana ti tusumgi chado ina nigi chado ina
jingye se
jingye tang shishi maimba ni
da jingye de ganda gazo tumugi chato de yire da tumugi chato mo iba pachen rosa ko yo se kandigina nyomu kandigina tumugi chato de yire so
nyomon kangina de
tumugi
timugi chado
tumugi chato pato bachi yo ma tumugi wang ka de nyomu jisama jia jangja ro
ini di timugi chado jibo ina
tumugi chato
kongzhu dang shidang ducha dang shidang
dan de cha wang de de duya yo ro
ducha
kongzhu wang de duya yo ro jingye se jingye se da ma se bi shawa dubala de se shinda pe pa nyomu ji se kandigina pa chando ge jiro Nimuchi pa sinji chane nimuchi la pando jangi de samali ure swa tonto wanda lugure da sha wanda lugure tubu wanda ta tumu de yiri chansa la yas
su jingye da shishi maimba ina shishi maimba
kacho lu se
karigi chado ina
ye da shishi maimba tumu ki chado yiri sta chansa
ini di ducha dang kongzhu ni
da
yongsi
cha ko jana ja yiri chi se 지단 가서 제야 요구래 좋아
that's all niga ile di sumga de jayo
요구리 that's it
that's all yeah so for both forgetfulness and non-introspections it belongs to the category of ignorance belongs to the category of three poisons so as long as it is afflictions then it is necessarily belongs to the category of ignorance already so forgetfulness and non-introspections then it can be part of attachment and anger as well. Because when we talk about forgetfulness, for example, is when one engaged in virtuous activities, afflicted mind arises, and one falls under the control of it, and one turns toward the affliction side. So therefore, it depends on the situations, and this ignorance, anger and attachment can be part of these three, similar to non-introspection as well.
Thank you.
다 차도 만들고 같이 요 말했지. 너무 간디지나. 너무 차도 만들고 같이 요 말했어.
So as long as it is an afflictions, then it is necessarily a part of afflictions, a part of ignorance.
Okay, can I clarify something, Ken? Last week, we have a review class with Sally regarding lethargy, and it falls under ignorance. So this is specifically related to the mind for lethargy, not the general as lethargy that physically we're so tired that we cannot go on contemplation or study. We just need a rest.
Ini di kita ngama ina tu di muba jangan bawa je lah, muba di jangan bawa. Ini yang di kasa ini di semgi kasa lesu mirong ada di Eropa. Ini yang di timu di chado guys. Ini tanah muba saya di semgi dewa lah, semgi lesu marong lah. Lugi lesu marong ada di muba di segi marong.
Lisi ni kan lesu marong cewek lesu orang.
Benda saja nak tu semua tang cie dah boleh nak.
Leader say ni kan lesu marong cewek lesu pro leader say ni kerja cewek marong.
Ini kasa ini di semua tang ni kan cici orang. Semua tang cie dah ini ada yang ni so kaya goya dah boleh nanti muba juga. Semua tang cie ni so kaya.
Sepuluh jenis apa? Sen apa? Semua di syawal di gunda apa? Level apa? Ini kan level. Kasi pagi saya ini mesti lesu berubah.
Jadi di kasa subuh dah, usia ni kan tang cie bah, katu ina di muba ini baru.
Tapi muba kadina legu mana lah? Kadina muba legu mana?
Subuh tang cie bah, dah boleh ina di muba ini baru.
Kita ni legu mana? Muba sebab ni perang ni mesti subuh tang cie muba kaya. तो मुझे पे गोला दो शुभ ना सुबह तांचे हो रहा है ये मुंबई के मारा 무바 그런 거 실례도 되지 요래 세고래 뭐서 수가 잡아 두셔도 참 가장 단답이.
Yeah. So lethargy here it says that it is a heaviness and unserviceability of the body and mind, and is a factor of ignorance, and it has the functions of assisting all root afflictions and secondary afflictions, right? This is the functions, and then this is the nature. So if it is a heaviness and unserviceability of the body and mind, then it is lethargy, but not all kinds of the body tiredness becomes lethargy. So as it depends. So if it has the functions of assisting, it has such functions, then it becomes lethargy. If just normal body normal tiredness, then it not necessarily is lethargy.
무바 그런 거 실례라고 리스 레스 모르마 리스 쉐브리 해서 그런 말. 맞죠? 리 레스 모르마 임바트지 고무바이 제부 아니야 봐요 말에. 세 레스 모르마 임바트지 고무바이 제부야 말에. 맞죠? 수고 가나 때. 킬로 맞지 지달로 맞지 샤지 되는 거. 그 리프로 무조건 제 두고 막 맞고 차도 그러고. 그때 세트 군도 시원도 쉬긴 더 사와이나. 야, 니 샤워 들어라 배 레스 모르마 차사로.
심콩도 도와이나.
배 군도 배 쉬지 나와이나. 세트 배 줄을 놓쳐라고.
레스 모르마 차와요.
세 레스 모르마 차사로 니 샤워 레스 모르마.
근데 이나 기실라
무파 그러기 싫어도 두시요. 무파도 레우디 레스 모르마 제비를 해서. 무파 그런 레우디. 딜로워에 맞아 가서 리셀레스 모르마 제세 그거도 무파레서 뭐야.
Yeah. And yeah, so and when we talk about lethargy, when lethargy arises, then it causes heaviness and unserviceability of the body and mind. So it is not heaviness and unserviceability of the body and mind is lethargy. Yeah. So when lethargy arises, then it causes a heaviness and unserviceability of the body and mind. So it's not all types of the unserviceability of body and unserviceability of the mind are lethargy. They're not necessary.
Thank you.
Isla, can I just back to my question? Why does my mind do that when I do from memory? Say if I do 6 sessions Guru Yoga, suddenly I automatically switch over to 3 principles of the past, and then I realize it and I come back. Well, why does the mind do that sort of thing? Is it due to my forgetfulness or what? Or lack of concentration or what? Suddenly I say, or say 6 sessions Guru Yoga, I do the long one from memory, then suddenly my mind switches to the verse in the short one, Then I realize it and I come back again. Well, why do the mind do that?
Yeah, any the penetration I twin to the Dumeka line of the color and the Lamjonam so the Tungiores and the Hamakoba any the Lamjonam Sumit City Tungiores, Kariji in the Tingishamari, young Jigina, Yanani the Kazani Sim Yula, because a Sim Mipala singing Marwa.
This singing Baris. Singing one of the Doris. Jingino in Jamarisco. This saying in Dojavare, teach it.
The new double.
Saying one in Dojavara.
Didn't because new the Chabaro, new China, new singing Baro in a the Casanti.
This is not one you knew Marda. You was new Marda de Chandala.
That's all. Singing Baro.
I say you want Dojara.
That's all. So yeah. So why mind does that is because of distraction.
That is not the memory tempo.
Yeah.
Tempo yabo suma to bache. Not only yapun to motivate to the world. Thing as a mabu juras and also not the Lord to the woman to consider that the new word. Not to the tempo suma the new words. Then I to the universe, child of Nashi, not to the universe. Not to the patients and not to the general sound. Woman to consider the current method tempo yabo no matter what woman to consider is not the university. Then as a tempo suma at the university.
Yeah, so basically it is distractions of the mind. That's why that this happens. And it also can, it can be, due to the factor that your memorization powers is not strong enough. So it's not just you. So it happens to me as well. So sometimes, like I have already memorized, how's it, the ornament for clear realizations. So while reciting it, sometimes then I will switch to the words of entering the middle way. Sometimes it happens to me, yeah, because when we memorize the first text, for example, ornament for clear realizations, if we do not memorize, if our memorization's power, if it's not strong enough, then sometimes when we recite text A, then unknowingly, then we recite the words of another text. Yeah, so it does happen.
Money so money chingo chin dangwa money there kola mitse madam benza ko nda baina this thing yamare singeni da money ndogura so khalina ndogura ko nanda yo marwa money there shi sa kala ya mitse madam benza ko nda baina this thing yamare singeni Mese dichna shung tsaman dangwa ni ngasa tata mado wa tsang ngasa ngato ya ku nju ma ya ta ndi yurwa mando.
Yeah. So when we recite Mani mantra also, sometimes then we unknowingly then we recite Mitsema, sometimes we recite a Guru Rinpoche mantra as well. So yeah, then this is very much related to distractions. So if talking about text, yeah, so like sadhanas and texts I mentioned just now, then most probably it would be due to the memorization powers.
Thank you, Geshe-la. So normally I will do Vatsa Sattva to sort of just balance it. Is that all right?
Because I did it chung na tuje sembai nga di dengyo na di res. Tuje sembai because I did teach na di thaba. Ta thai ge che du ro ne tuje sembai di na di ta yo.
Re ta dil hat che ro.
Di apo yo ro.
Re se ni sha pa ro.
Yeah, that is also good. Yeah, to confess.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
I just wanted to add, because Geshe-la say is a distraction, right? Which we will do in the following class. But Geshe-la also said it is not an affliction. Whereas distraction is involved with one of the afflictions, right? So is it correct to say it is a distraction, or is it just non-concentration? Something to think about. I mean, we are short of time. Maybe we can do it next class when Geshe-la talks about distraction. But
so any day the sing yin ba any day sung ba yin la any day dun ta jema so yang sing yin ba yang do ya ro any day sing yin wa de yang nian yue ro yin la nian yue na de yang ka san de tu sun kang rong ye any day kong su do gi ro ini de tan da any day yang sing yin sa de nian
na so yin wa kang ga de ni mun do ma re de ma so de ma ni ne shi ma sha de tu se ki sha ya re pro ya ni mun do gi ri je re ni yin se kang ga ni mun do ma re 네 가서 정가든 장선 님은 누구 말했어?
그래서
님은 여가 지시고래서 한다.
니은 장 강가 아니지 sama. 니은 이슈데.
장가만 내가 장가는 이해로 와. 이해세 강가든 님은 누구 말했어?
아, 네.
이거 말했어.
맞어.
님은 여바래 열했어. 님은 여바래 열했어. 님이 내신으로 님을 장가들이 너무 님을 땡데 열해. 이나 강가 이해한다고 지나 강가 님은 누구 말했어?
that's Yeah, so even though I say it's distractions, but it's not all types of distractions are involved in afflictions, are not involved with afflictions. So basically, not all types of distractions are necessarily afflicted. Not necessary. So next week, then we are going to talk about the types or the divisions of distractions. Then we will learn about not all types of distractions are afflicted.
Dama 저기 있어 원들었더니 집된 가지고 누워요. 그래서 저거 좀 인지지 동사로 하는 생각 그래서 첫 번째 쇼핑 좀 하거든. 그래서 가진 나가지 저절하면서 바로 스튜디오 짓고 그냥 힘들고 오늘 지다 일단다 모두가 내려와서 대지 신경쓰는 예전에 제가 통해서 디파트 선지식 분들이 더 모두가 내려와서 대지 동안 잡고 너무 신경 쓰다 보니까 동안 디다 얘도 좋아. 얘도 좋아. 뭐 지나 다 내야 뒤에 진지했다 신진 양도 없으니까 다 멤버를 내셔버려 굉장히 더 가지고 그런 서로 같이 제일 내는 뒤치 피순서가 무슨 뭐 하면 제일 있어요.
So we conclude with dedication. We dedicate the roots of virtue accumulated to the flourishing of Buddha Dharma and to excellent happiness of all sentient beings. We also dedicate these roots of virtue to upholders of Buddha's teachings of 10 directions, represented by His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and also our beloved Geshe Lama Zopa Rinpoche. May they live eons long, good health, and may their holy wishes be accomplished instantaneously, and may their enlightened activities spread to all 10 directions. And we also dedicate these roots of virtue to the world peace, and may excellent happiness prevail the world. And may we also dedicate these roots of virtue to those who pass away, especially those who pass away in pandemic, wars, and conflicts. May their negativities accumulated since beginningless time be pacified immediately and quickly achieve the state of enlightenment. And we also dedicate these roots of virtue to those who are in suffering, especially those who suffer because of pandemic, wars, and conflict. May they quickly be free from their sufferings, and may their life be filled with excellent happiness. We also dedicate these roots of virtue to those who help others, such as doctors, nurses, and those who help others financially. And may their life be filled with excellent happiness, and may their holy wishes be accomplished instantaneously. Sabegi wadi tenang doa kun la kamben dang ke pa chisun lo sang dang mo yi tenbe ni bo ren do se je sho chan chu sen jo ren bo je ma ke pa na ke gyu ji yang ba me ba yang ko ne ko do be wa sho ja be ba wo ji da ke ba dang kun do sam bo de yang de shin de de da kun ge che su da lo je di da dam che ra do mo tong yi da wa ke gyu ji ke ba nyang ba Nekudo Bewa Itawa Rinpoche Ma Kepana Kikuji Kepa Nyamba Meba Yang Kone Kondo Bewa Sho Tanjin Jamu Kewe Zikyo Bewe Kusho Toko Zechu Suku Elemen Tutu Bata Sodu Je Kendo Shakten Sho Tuni Ning Je Sudu Jube Lang Chise Sese Kanchen Tendu Gwenchana Pemo Tenzin Gasola Teso Shenduen Hendo Sho Jiten Kande Pende Maluba Kale Chue Sambe Ishino Kadin Sume Tenzin Gasola Soa Teso Tushe Lendo Sho Gary Poe Shinkan Dependant de Wama Luju Wede Tenzin Gasoi Shabe Site Patu Thank you.
Oh yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Geshe-la.
Thank you, Geshe-la.